we had seen what he had done in the past with other journalists, in which he would say, "You're finished," or he just wouldn't allow them to continue. So we knew we had to do two things as journalists. First, to stand up. I mean, again, if you ask a question sitting down, it would be a completely different balance of power. And as a journalist, you have to be at the same level. And second, we knew that I was only going to have a few seconds to ask the question.
Right.
And I purposely made the decision that I was going to continue asking the question regardless of what he was going to be doing. So TV doesn't happen like that. TV is produced. There was a camera in front of me. There was another camera taking a shot of Mr. Trump. So for TV to work, you need to plan that. And it was something planned. I wanted just to say, no, you cannot deport 11 million. You cannot build a wall in 1,900 miles between Mexico and the US, because it really doesn't make any sense. 40% of the people come with visas. So it doesn't matter how tall the wall is going to be. And I also wanted to say that, exactly, so you're going to build a beautiful Trump wall, 1,900 miles, and then they come by plane, right? So not 40%.
They're not flying Trump Airways anymore, though.
And then the other fact that I wanted to establish as the premise of my question was that you cannot deny citizenship to those born here in the United States to undocumented immigrants, because they are US citizens just as you are, or Donald Trump, or I am. So,
but in pointing this out, doesn't that make you an advocate? Aren't you arguing with him rather than merely asking him?
Well, first you have to establish the premise, and then you have to, from my point of view, in order to challenge a candidate or a president or someone in power, you have to establish why you are challenging that person. And after that, I was going to ask him all the questions. I didn't even have the time to do that. Maybe there were only 5 to 10 seconds when I had to do that. So what's the philosophy behind it? I think that as a journalist, the most important social responsibility that we have is to challenge those who are in power. But when do you challenge them? I think there are 6 areas in which, as a journalist, you are it's not only appropriate, but it is your duty to challenge those who are in power when it comes to discrimination, racism, corruption, public lies, dictatorships, or human rights. In those instances, Frank, I think you have to challenge those who are in power. And in the case of Donald Trump, when he was discriminating against a group, in this case Mexican immigrants, and when he was violating human rights for immigrants in this country, or making that proposal, we had to challenge him. So I think I understand why some people might think that we were doing activism and not journalism. What I would argue is that the best examples of journalism that we have are when, as a journalist, you challenge those who are in power. Edward R. Murrow against McCarthy, Cronkite during the Vietnam War, the Washington Post reporters when they forced the resignation of Richard Nixon, Christiana Amanpour when he questioned the US administration during the Balkan Wars, or even Anderson Cooper after Katrina. All those are examples of great journalism in which we have to challenge those who are in power.